Hello, friends. This is another episode of the program Empire of Lies, in which we talk about manipulation and disinformation in the Russian media. When foam plastic turns into a political storm, Europe under fire from cheap threats. On the night of September 10th to 11th, Europe once again saw how fragile its security is. Several dozen drones, launched, according to Warsaw, by Russia, invaded Polish airspace. Were they carrying a warhead? Number. Were they able to strike? Number. But it was these cheap devices, Gerberas, that caused panic, closed airports, meetings of the Polish National Security Council, and emergency NATO consultations. The symbolism of the event turned out to be stronger than its real destructive power. And this is perhaps the main lesson for Europe. Moscow has learned to use the cheapness of technology against the high cost of our reactions. Drones as a strategy of attrition. The Russian program 60 Minutes cynically stated, a missile for 2 million on foam plastic. The irony is not accidental. This is the new logic of war. Where NATO is forced to launch F-35s and spend missiles worth hundreds of thousands of euros each, a toy object with a cost price of several $100s is launched. This is not just a military provocation, this is an economic attack. The war of attrition is being waged not only at the front, but also in the financial reports of the Ministry of Defense. Europe is forced to spend millions to intercept objects that are not worth even 100th of this amount. Poland as a frontier and as a showcase, Warsaw reacted sharply, closed checkpoints with Belarus, the transfer of 40,000 troops, calls for NATO to use Article 4, and even talk about a wall from drones. The Poles feel like Europe's shield, and not without reason. It is through Rzeszów that the main military aid to Ukraine is sent. Key supply routes pass over Poland. But there is another risk. Poland is becoming a convenient target for the Kremlin's tests. Each new provocation is a reason to check how quickly NATO mobilizes, who in the alliance speaks louder, who hesitates, and who suggests waiting and not escalating. West 2025, a game of nerves. The next day, Russian media simultaneously emphasized large-scale exercises West 2025 are taking place. Moscow and Minsk officially talk about defending the Union state. But Europeans remember it was with similar maneuvers that the full-scale war against Ukraine began. It is important to understand here, the exercises are not only training for soldiers, they are training the nerves of Europe. Moscow is checking how politicians react, what headlines are generated in the European press, where society begins to panic, and where it gets tired. What should Europe do? Emotions are important, but the answer must be pragmatic. Cheap threats, cheap answers. Europe needs mass short-range interception systems, electronic warfare, low-power lasers, automatic sensor networks, not just Patriots for millions. Municipal defense. Anti-drone technologies must be integrated at the level of communes and regions. Without this, every new violation will paralyze the life of an entire country. Transparency of investigations. Every incident must be documented technically and not just politically. People have the right to know what exactly happened, otherwise the space is filled with rumors and propaganda. NATO is escalating tensions on the eastern flank. Poland and Latvia have closed their borders with Belarus and the sky above them. Footage from one checkpoint. It is clear that the Polish border guards have installed barriers and stretched barbed wire. At midnight, they finally stopped letting people through. What does this have to do with people? The Terespol-Brest crossing is closed for cars. For trucks, the Kukuriki-Kozlovici crossing is closed. All three railway crossings between Belarus and Poland are also closed. All this is for an indefinite period, said Polish Interior Minister Gerberas. The country's defense ministry has announced the transfer of a 40,000-strong group to the borders. Warsaw directly claims this is a reaction to the West 2025 exercises. Deputy Defense Minister of Poland, Cezary Tomczyk, recalls that the special operation in Ukraine began with similar maneuvers. Europe at a crossroads 60 Minutes laughs at NATO panic and foam blanks. But behind this irony lies a real strategy to undermine Europeans' confidence in their own security. If Europe continues to react expensively and loudly, Moscow will repeat these scenarios again and again. We must conclude, the 21st century is not the century of big tanks against big tanks. It is the century of cheap provocations that can destabilize entire alliances. And victory here depends not on the loudness of statements, but on cold engineering logic. Quickly, massively, and inexpensively neutralize the threat. You were on the program Empire of Lies. See you soon.